Hello to Emmanuel Shachaf.
Hello, hello.
You know, we've been conducting these interviews twice a month, and suddenly on Friday night, five of the most top former generals in the Israeli army are facing questions, and you are seeing that at home and thinking to yourself,
Shocking, absolutely shocking. I must admit, I was taken aback that five generals who were questioned with regard to the threats against Israel, the critical threats towards the existential threats towards Israel. They were questioned, and they didn't find one word, or almost no word, to talk about the conflict with the Palestinians.
it means that identity, the quest for, has nothing to do with the conflict? Currently?
This is what they seem to think, and the question is, first of all, do they really think that way, or do they just decide not to talk about it, or whether the anchor who questioned them decided to take it out during the preparation of the
interview. If you were questioning them, if you were there asking the question in the studio at the South and asking these five top generals that are very much involved in Israeli politics, and there is no question that they did the best for what they think is the identity of Israel, what would be the main question that you would ask?
What about the conflict? What about the conflict? What's going to happen? What's going to happen if we don't manage to go towards a two-state solution? This is the most obvious question that they would have to relate to. They served for accumulated, probably each of them around 30 years, or so accumulated 150 years. Many of those years they served in the territories. They lost soldiers, they lost comrades, they maybe even lost family members as a result of terror. And they have nothing to say on that? This is ridiculous. This is really, really, it's even scary. How can they pass such long time in service and not be left with deep concern about the situation that is ongoing every day? We still have terror attacks every day. We have problems with the West Bank. We have problems with Israel's Arab population as a result of the problems with the West Bank, and they don't relate to it. What is that?
And if they would say, well, we try to relate, and maybe at the right time the two-state solution is going to be back on the table, so let's maintain the situation till then.
Maintaining the situation, maintaining the status quo means giving up on options. The longer we stay in this situation where nothing is resolved, okay, the less freedom we will have to do what is right. And we haven't even decided what is right. We haven't even decided what we want to do. So basically, this is a cop-out to say, well, we'll just keep on going, shrinking the conflict, which is government policy. It's not going to work. Okay, it's not going to work. The conflict is going to grow on us, and it's going to blow on us, and we have to deal with it. And it can't be that five most of the top-ranking generals in the Israeli military have nothing to say on this.
And if they would say, well, let's keep on patience, this is the right approach, the Netanyahu's, Bennett's, Lapid's approach, which is very similar, keeping the occupation, trying to maintain everything stable, what would be your next question?
It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Obviously we can go on like this, okay? And we have been going for 55 years, so it's an indication that we can go on like this. But the situation is going to be always more unstable than it is now. Okay, the instability is growing, and we can see it's growing. So instead of putting all the emphasis on the Iran nuclear issues, which may become eventually an existential threat, we have to relate to the existential threat. Definitely, it's not physically as existential, maybe, but it's certainly spiritually it's an existential threat for Israel to keep maintaining an occupation over 4.5 million Palestinians.
So basically, you're saying and offering, let's think about Plan B as part of looking for a better identity for Israel.
Yes, we have to. We have to, and they have to, and everybody has to think of a plan B. What's going to be here if there's not going to be two states? And we can't just say that's the end of Zionism. I mean, that's a cop-out. Obviously, there are ways we can deal with this. Other countries have dealt with issues like that. We can deal with issues like that.
Other countries as...
No, I'm not going to give examples, but I'm saying that the federation is an option. Confederation may be an option, although that is unlikely. But there are options, we have to talk about them, and if we don't talk about them, we're going to end up in a deteriorating situation, and it's deteriorating by the day.
And when you're talking about options and federations, you're meaning like the United States, or Germany, or Brazil, or India, small countries that the federation became part of their nationality and their identity.
Yes, and they're managing to have governments which joins different national movements, and things like that are quite common and quite possible, and also we can do it if we just get our mind to it.
We're talking about different national movements. The Ministry of Education and the Tel Aviv Ministry is basically struggling a bit about drawing the green line.
Yes,
or not.
The Ministry of Education doesn't want Tel Aviv, city of Tel Aviv, to show the green line in maps which are being distributed to the schools, which is really, really ridiculous. I mean, first of all, I think there are very few people who still even remember the green line. So that there's putting the green line on maps is, if anything, it's an encouragement to talk about the issues, and that we should do and not ignore them. And to claim that this is a political position is just as much as a political position not to show the green line. So there's really no sense in that, and I'm pretty sure that Tel Aviv City Hall will get away with it. I don't think they're going to erase the green line.
Something
but
about
they shouldn't.
Getting away with it is, for instance, closing so many human rights organizations.
Yes, we're continuing to deteriorate and starting to act more and more like dictatorial regimes, closing down human rights organizations in the Palestinian territories without any substantial proof. Okay, we have been asked by the Europeans and by the Americans to provide proof. We haven't provided any proof. We closed them down. We're clamping down on the Palestinians much more forceful than before. There's more than 700 administrative detentions, which is a very, very, very tough measure to take against people, to jail them or to put them in custody without a legal basis, without a court case, and it's happening more and more. And as a result of that, the situation in the territories is getting worse. There's more and more attacks. There's more and more need for the army to go in with force. This isn't going to end well.
Emmanuel Shahaf, please, any upside, any good news that you would like in this report, in this interview to share?
The only thing is, from my point of view, that I'm meeting more and more people, sometimes on their initiative, to discuss both federation and also our links to Indonesia. And in the end, it's all going to be tied together. There will be alternatives. They will be discussed. They will be impressed upon the government of Israel by other governments, because we can't stay in a situation like that where nothing is being done while the situation deteriorates every day.
You're saying as part of an international network of people that are very, very much concerned with what is happening here.
Yes, people are concerned all over the world, and I'm in contact with people all over the world, and we're getting our act together.
And as part of your visit and the delegation in Indonesia, also very, very powerful internet networks in the media in Israel are
Yes.
quoting, are interviewing, and are showing respect to that visit.
So much, very much so, and we mustn't forget that relations with Indonesia will only be complete when we have a solution to the conflict with the Palestinians.
Yes, this is the way, the voice of Jakarta.
Yes.
Emmanuel Shachaf, people that want to be part of this federation and identity.
On Facebook, Emmanuel Shachaf, or Identity: The Quest for Israel's Future, or the Federation Movement.
Emmanuel Shachaf, I want to thank you very much.
Thank you.